The MoneroTopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
We can hear you loud and clear. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Doug. Yeah, it's good to see you again. It's been a long time, actually. Just realized.
When was the last time you had you on? I don't know. I guess maybe like a year. I don't even know, man. I can't keep track.
It was basically a year ago. I think we kind of gave
right before
an
the
update.
conference.
Yeah, it was right before the conference. I was actually really keen. I was pretty much looking at every possible way to get there. And I was basically, the short of this is wife, 1 year old, and we literally tried and looked at every potential logistics to this, and it just couldn't work out. So I had to send Felix in my place. So that was the short of it. My kid's a bit older now.
All right.
Approaching 2, which is great. I'm kind of halfway. I'm glad he's downstairs. I've got the mother-in-law and my missus downstairs.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of like, it's so good. He's not yet run in, waving his arms, going, which has been, I was like, is that gonna be a thing? I don't think so. So
yeah, I have a 9-month-old now. She's not in the room with us right now. She's often in the background now on these shows.
Yeah.
So awesome, man. Right? It's as good as it gets. Yeah, obviously we'd love to have you this year. You have some time now. It's not until February. I know a lot of schools are off during that, at least here in the U.S., a lot of schools are off during that time. Well, obviously 2 years old, you're not worried about that. But, yeah, I'm hoping people bring their kids. People brought some kids last year. There's some babies there. There were some kids. So I want to keep building that up. It adds a nice element, right? And it's important, right? Like, we're not here to just talk among ourselves, right? We want the next generation to pick up where we left off, right? So I know I bring my 11-year-old. I brought her to Pork Fest a couple of times now. For MoneroTopia, I hope she doesn't mind. I guess I'll announce it now. She'll be creating the wristbands that everybody will get to identify that they're part of the conference, whether they're VIP. So she is accepting Monero. I'm paying her in Monero, and she is hand making all the bracelets.
Oh, nice.
So she's excited about that. I think she prefers goldbacks, but she'll take Monero. So actually goldback she was a little unsure about now, because she's like, how do I turn it into cash? But like Monero, she's understanding that it's actually quite easy to. We showed her Cake Wallet. We showed her that you could buy, worst case, you could buy some gift cards if you want to get out. So yeah, I think it's important to get the kids involved.
It's funny that Monero is actually a lot more liquid than gold, even though the narrative around gold and the history and the culture is so much, that there's just so much stronger in the sense that there's so much history there. When you actually look at the raw kind of metrics of the raw idea of how do you actually use Monero, it's much more straightforward.
Right.
Especially things. Yeah.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, especially things like the marketplaces, right? You could actually go buy things peer to peer with it.
Exactly. I mean, like, are you going to exchange your gold ETF and then wait for the delivery of your physical gold and then take the tiniest sliver shavings? There you go. I'll take that banana.
Yeah. The other major difference I see that people don't often talk about much is just the inability to really counterfeit Monero, right? It's like very hard to counterfeit crypto. I always tell people, this is, especially when I'm talking to noobs, try to explain that concept, right? Like if somebody came up to you right now and it was buying your home, but you had to buy it on the spot, and there was a briefcase filled with $1 million in $100 bills. There's a little pile of gold, or I can send you a Monero transaction. You only have 30 seconds to decide, and I'm walking away. Which one are you taking? You'd be a fool not to take the Monero, right? Just because when you see it in your wallet received, it is in fact real Monero. It's much easier to counterfeit cash. Obviously, gold too, right? Like it's not. There's pretty good ways of determining, but Monero is very hard to counterfeit.
Got
Yeah,
got a thing that says that Dr. Cap's camera or background is flipped, so you might want to take a look at that if that's
Oh,
the case.
Oh yeah, that is true.
right. So, okay, maybe I better just change the background then. You don't mind if I just do that? Or
Yeah,
how
go
does it
ahead.
look? Because on my thing, it looks okay. Like basic swap reads the right way around. Does it read the right way around to you guys?
No, it's reading backwards. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is weird.
Yeah.
Okay, oh, I don't know how to edit the background right now. I feel like under
I
so
mean, we
much
get.
pressure.
If anything, it's forcing more people to like look at it, right? I mean, it might have the marketing effect you're going for. to,
Fair,
to try to
fair
figure out.
enough. Fair enough. That was completely unintentional. Actually, if you give me all of 30 seconds, I will flip it right back. Okay, so let me say when I was uploading the thing onto StreamYard, it basically looks flipped for me. So I was like, I had to create a very quick flipped version of it. But
Oh,
don't
so it
worry, I think we
actually
will.
okay. You
On my
unintentionally
camera
flipped
end,
it.
it looks
Yeah.
completely flipped over. Oh well, and there you go. Now I've lost. But hang on, just to say, I feel so hapless right now as I do this.
It's all right. It's all right. Take your time. Take your time. I'll fill the
Yeah,
space. I'll
yeah,
fill
yeah.
the space.
No pressure. No pressure. There you go. Does that look better?
Bam! It was worth
Okay.
it.
Cool. Excellent. Right. Oh, wait.
So
What am I on
yeah,
here?
hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully we do see you down there. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have participated in at least the last two
Yeah.
MoneroTopias, right? Just the Mexico. You weren't at the Miami one, but you
No, we
were you?
weren't
No,
at
no,
the.
no, no.
Was
Yeah,
there a
but you've been a
Miami
very.
one?
No, I think you were just. Yeah, the first one was in Miami.
Oh no, we weren't
Um,
at that one. So we
yeah.
were at the second the Mexico and Mexico again.
Yeah, and you've
Um,
been a big part of that. We've greatly appreciated your support, and I think it's worked out, helped Basic Swap as well, right? I mean, there was we helped get the word out. A lot of people didn't really, in the beginning, right? People were like excited about atomic swaps and all these things, not ignoring Basic Swap, which is a pretty effective way to get in and out of Monero to other cryptos, and it's I don't think any longer overlooked. But it's
no, let me give credit to you
yeah,
guys where it's due. We were on the verge of not existing if it wasn't for you guys. So, I think a direct consequence wasn't just the raising of our profile. Getting onto MoneroTopia. The first time we came, we were unknown. The second time we came, we were accepted. So that
exactly.
was the
Yeah.
most immediate difference. But even between the first and the second time, it drew eyes onto our project from members of your community, and that really helped build up support from members of the Monero community. The funding proposal from OftenXMR, that helped us out in a massive way to accelerate the development and improve the core underlying stability of basic swap DEX and to improve the functionality. So at the end of the day, basic swap DEX as it is would not be where we are today if it was not for MoneroTopia and Monero Talk. That is simple.
Awesome, man.
So respect
That
where it's due.
Hey Doug,
that is
apparently
beautiful to hear.
Offren is going to be coming on as well. If you want to bring him up when he comes on,
Oh,
I don't know if you want to or
yeah,
not. That's your
sure.
choice.
Yeah,
I
we could
just-
bring him on at the end. I mean, I would like to just have him as a guest, do a full guest segment. But if he wants to jump up today, he's more than happy to. So yeah, Dr. Cap, you want to give us the rundown of where things are at?
Yeah, I think we've kind of, with OftenXMR's proposal, we've done a lot of the milestones and we're continuing to kind of finish those up. Now, in terms of that sort of last year, I think the biggest material change has been the integration of automated market maker tools within Basic Swap. So just to give a rundown for anyone who doesn't know what Basic Swap is, it's a decentralized exchange. It's an atomic swap DEX, and it's one of the few atomic swap DEXs that supports being both a maker and taker for Monero atomic swaps. The underlying architecture supports multiple layers of privacy. So you've got at the base layer the SMSG messaging protocol, and that's an end-to-end encrypted messaging protocol and service that runs on a number of nodes. So the basic swap network itself is essentially a peer-to-peer node network with the SMSG protocol acting as the encrypted messaging layer. That encrypted messaging layer is used to send the messages back and forth between the nodes to create a fully decentralized distributed order book. it also serves to transmit the messages back and forth between the nodes, i.e. the participants in the basic swap network, to enable atomic swaps to occur. The atomic swaps themselves, well, we support Monero atomic swaps because we utilize adapter signatures instead of the traditional HTLC model. And adapter signatures provide a nice additional layer of privacy because the HTLC method of atomic swaps can leave timestamps that can be traceable by chain analysis and other third-party analytics tools, whereas the adapter signature method kind of breaks that. So it makes it harder for third parties to analyze and see that swaps have actually occurred. Never mind that, the participants in the network, because all the messaging is encrypted, you don't have to worry about being spied on. So provided you're using basic swap to swap privacy coins, you're not getting just the privacy level from the privacy coins themselves, but you're getting 3 layers of privacy at that messaging layer, from the adapter signatures and from the privacy coins themselves. So that's a brief summary. And kind of going back to where we were, basic swap as it is currently, I keep thinking, should I call it basic swap power version, basic swap home edition, because you basically, it encapsulates both the strengths and the weaknesses of the current version, which is that you kind of have to run it from home. You're downloading the software, you're effectively setting up a node that runs 24/7 like a server, and it stays running like that so that it can receive and send messages to other nodes on the basic swap network. So that's a strength in that you are fully in control of the funds, you're fully in control of how you're participating, the network remains fully decentralized, you get access to all those benefits of security and privacy that I've kind of mentioned. But some of the cons are you kind of have to have the technical expertise to kind of set it up and leave it, and you have to have the hassle of leaving it running 24/7, and you have to then download and sync entire blockchains for the coins that you wish to swap. So those create barriers.
I was actually just about to ask that if there was a way that you guys had figured out to not have to do that entire thing, or like download maybe like last week's worth or a month's worth of blocks from each chain or something like that, so you don't have to pull your storage for Litecoin and Monero and Bitcoin and all those other ones.
Yeah, so this is actually what we're getting to. So this is us kind of laying out, we know what the problems are in terms of the road to mass adoption for this. So we know exactly who would this to in its current form, and we understand the limitations of how to make that grow as a network. Now, in terms of, answering your question, we are currently working on reports so you don't have to download the entire chains. So that is part of a broader strategy of things to basically enable So actually, I'll cut to the chase. What we're basically trying to do, and actually what we figured out what to do, is to get basic swap working on mobile phones and websites in a way that preserves all of the security, all of the privacy benefits, and most of the decentralization benefits as well. And as you mentioned, one of those technical challenges is, well, if I want to run basic swap DEX as a swap cert on my mobile phone, do I have to download entire chains? Well, at the moment, yes, but part of what we're doing is getting light wallet support to reduce the need for that. And that's something that can also be implemented into the home version. Sorry, does that answer the question?
I think so. That sounds exciting.
Okay, so that's one of the things.
I mean, by the way, how far off do you think that is? Where you're on your phone, smartphone, essentially using basic swap.
So I'm looking for the middle of next year, so mid 2026. We're actually already part of the way there. So in terms of what we've done, or what's already been done, is we've had integration of automated market making features into the GUI of the home version of basic swap. So now when you run basic swap, you can literally have a set it and forget it mode where you basically choose the coins you wish to trade, set your max min parameters, and it will just trade against the market, as it were, on your behalf. It'll execute the trades. So you can automate that process. So we've basically built a version that is much more friendlier to people who want to act as market makers to provide liquidity for basic swap. And that's really, I think that's primarily, the main use case for basic swap home is for market makers. and that's what we're kind of optimizing it for now.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of
And then,
getting it to mobile, the challenges that we have to solve are, well, how do you get this DEX onto mobile phones, but not have to download all the blockchains, not have to sync all the blockchains, and not have to keep the application running all the time. So because that's what you have to do with the home version. It needs to stay running in order for messages to be received and sent. And if they don't, then you don't send the messages back and forth for the atomic swap sequence to complete, so then the swaps don't occur, or you don't see orders on your order book because you're not receiving the messages for them. So how do we get rid of the requirements for persistence and storage to make this work on mobile? Well, there's a couple of solutions. By the way, if at any point you want to stop me, just tell me to stop.
no, this is good. This is good stuff. I want to throw you an idea. I'm sure that you've thought about, but go ahead, keep going.
No, so the solutions we basically had. So the other thing without jumping around too much. So the basic solutions are, they're all possible because it is possible to port basic swap DEX from home to mobile platforms because of the underlying messaging layer, which is the SMSG protocol. Now, what that basically means is. So I'm about to lose myself here, and I don't want to. Because it is a messaging layer, basically the things you can do are, with the atomic swaps themselves, if you look at what an atomic swap is, it is just a sequence of messages. It's a sequence of step-by-step instructions that then result in a direct swap occurring between two participants. Now, in order for those instructions to complete, you need a messaging layer. So that's the function that the SMSG protocol serves for this. Now, what you can do is, because it can store messages of any sort of given length, you can actually bundle up all of those steps into a template, essentially a template contract. So, and then you can kind of have the maker kind of pre-sign that contract. And so if there's an appropriate taker that says, oh, I like the look of this particular contract, it's basically an offer on the order book. The taker just signs it on there, and it triggers an automated execution of all the steps. So if you basically create these pre-signed templates if you basically restructure the offers on the order book to follow that sort of template format, then actually you've got this way to go, well, the only time you need to keep the application running on a mobile is when you actually sign as a taker. And this creates the limitation for mobile users because they can't act as makers. They can't post offers. They can only take offers that are on the order books because they're essentially signing one half of a contract that's already been signed by the other half, as it were. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. I'm thinking too. I mean, would some solutions potentially come with being integrated into something like Cake Wallet? So maybe then you're relying on them.
So we actually have. I'm not going to. Yeah. So this is interesting. So Basic Swap Mobile will launch as a mobile swap service that will be integrated into wallet partners. We have one wallet partner lined up that I can announce publicly, and 3 others that, out of respect to them, I won't. But I can assure you that those 3 other partners would be more than happy to have Basic Swap Mobile integrated into their services. We've had the backdoor discussions with them, and kind of they verbally said, yeah, we get it. We think this is a great idea. It's a great fit. It's in alignment with our values. We can see exactly what you're doing. We understand how this benefits us, and we can make this work. So yeah, we do have 4 potential integration partners. The one I can announce, ironically, I know you just slagged them off about 10 minutes ago, but it was Litecoin. So, it's Litecoin. Litecoin's actually going to be one of our first integration partners. So the Litecoin
so their
Nexus,
wallet?
Their wallet.
Okay.
So they have the Nexus wallet. So we can publicly announce this because we actually already did at the Litecoin Summit in 2025. So I was able to get around to Las Vegas to do this. So a lot of what we've been doing, if you look outside of the development framework, there's this whole team of people that
that could become a good way to move Litecoin into Monero, right?
Yes. So this is that I'm not going to confirm, but I think they're very much. My understanding is they're open to it. They're actually cool with it. A lot of the people at that summit really like the fact that we support Monero. I'm not going to name names. They're actually really cool with the fact that we've done that. So, and they know that Monero and Litecoin are the most used pairs on Basic Swap. So they're actually absolutely fine with that. And also the Litecoin community, they're actually really big, as in the Litecoin, if you look at the Litecoin higher-ups, massive fans of privacy. That's why they deployed, they've got Mimblewimble support now for Litecoin. Now, I'm not going to argue the benefits, pros, and cons of one privacy protocol versus the other. All I'm here to say is they are supporters of privacy, which is why we have a good alignment with them. And you're absolutely right, having a service where you could, so it's the Nexus wallet, which is Litecoin's own official wallet, and that's a Litecoin Foundation's kind of officially supported wallet for holding your Litecoin. And that's the Nexus wallet. So we will be integrating basic swap DEX into that as a swap service that's taker only. And it will be a swap service where on your mobile phone, you don't have to download and sync blockchains. You don't need to leave it running all the time. You just need to open up that wallet, go to that swap service, and basically pick the offers you want to take. And we're actually able to do that in a manner where we can offer a better rate than I think. I'm not going to argue about monetization, though. I think we can offer a better service that's more competitive and definitely more secure and more private and fully non-custodian compared to traditional centralized swap services. So that's essentially what we're deploying. With traditional centralized swap services, you hand your money over to a third party that you have to trust. You have to trust that they're going to manage those funds responsibly. You don't have to trust that they don't get hacked. You don't have to trust that they don't freeze your funds for whatever reason. And then you're going to have to trust that they'll give you the best rates and actually execute the trades on your behalf. With us, you don't have to trust us because the system is inherently trustworthy. You retain full control of your funds because they're always on your wallet. It's an atomic swap. That's the nature of it. You retain the full benefits of privacy because that swap service uses all the underlying architecture of basic swap. You retain all the security benefits because it's using all the underlying architecture of basic swap, and it remains fully non-custodian, and you get pretty much all of the decentralization benefits as well. They only say I put the asterisks in because to get basic swap as a mobile service to interact with the basic swap network, you'll need to use an API. So if you want to get really technical, that in itself, an API is an area of potential centralization, but that is the minimum. That is the one trade-off. Does that kind of make sense?
Can the API be run on like your home node? So like if somebody is going to have this at home, can they run the API on their home node and connect their mobile to it over like a Tor hidden service or something?
So I would like. This is a really good question. I haven't. You know what? I'm going to actually speak to the devs and see if this is something we could do. I know. Yeah. I think.
We'll be. Looks like
actually, it's a really good question. Yeah.
Ofren is going to come up, so he might have some insight into that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, is Ofren coming up?
I could bring him up. Yeah, I wanted to, let you say your things first, and then we'll bring him up.
No, that wasn't actually under our consideration, but actually that's a really good suggestion, and it's definitely something I want to feed back to the team.
Awesome. Anything else you want to get out there, and then I'll bring Ofren up. We'd love to get your take on the proof of work versus proof of stake thing. We could do that when Ofren is up. We'd like to get his take as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else?
I think in terms of the updates, I think we've improved the scalability of our architecture in preparation for mobile. So all of our current roadmap, if you go to our website and kind of look at it and look at our development, every feature not only improves the home experience, but is geared towards kind of enabling and making this mobile swap service available. One of the features we've done now is something called multi-net support. So the SMSG messaging protocol can now not operate just on the SMSG messaging network, but on other messaging networks So like Telegram's messaging network or Elements messaging network or NIM's messaging network. So in that way, you can kind of, the network can scale as it grows and as demand grows, because it's demand on a messaging service. Each service has its throughput. So you can kind of switch these messages between different networks, as it were, and that's going to help with general scalability. But yeah, like I said, we're doing a lot of work in terms of making this work for mobile phones so that your granny can basically at least use it as a casual swap service. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Oh, and the last thing I want to say is in relation to the Litecoin wallet, the Nexus wallet, there is a crowd raise related to that. And I appreciate some of the Monero community may well go, oh, it's Litecoin, all right, no. But what I'm basically going to say to you is anyone who helps to fund that crowd raise, it's actually helping our roadmap in relation to this, which helps our roadmap in relation to every single integration that we do on mobile. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I
encourage people to consider supporting that for sure. I mean, but like I said, Basic Swap, we don't have a lot of options right now, right? We have some theoretical ones, Sarai Dex, we've all been waiting for that. We have Havino, which is great. Basic Swap is one that exists right now that works, and that they're excited to improve it and evolve it towards what it needs to be so that it could be as usable as an instant exchange on your Cake wallet or your Edge wallet, right? So totally support that initiative, because that's just going to help more people get into Monero in a KYC free way, in the best way possible, right? Doing atomic swaps from whatever it is, Litecoin to Monero. Extremely important that we have these bridges. So highly recommend people consider supporting it for sure.
Yeah. Like I said, if you support this, it is going to help the liquidity for Monero. It is going to make Monero much more accessible, much easier to buy, trade, and spend with, and it's going to be much more secure because you'll be doing it on a decentralized network that is truly censorship proof. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have to worry about exchange delistings or,
Right. We just saw Trade Ogre go down, right? Like, took a lot of people's crypto with them. Not your keys, not your coins, whatever. People just do what's easy and simple and user-friendly. So people tended to just start using it, overusing it, forgetting that there's risk involved, and bam, they get rugged by the Canadian government.
I'm sitting here.
Go ahead.
I'm sitting here thinking on XMR Bazaar, you can atomic swap Monero for pizza.
There you go. But yeah, let me go ahead and bring Ofrn up. Bring him up. So where do people go? Where is this fundraiser happening?
So you can literally Google Litecoin Basic Swap, but I've just posted the link in the private chat. If you're happy, just share the link on your channels after. It's litecoin.com/projects/basic swap. And you can crowdfund it. You can use multiple currencies, including cryptocurrency. I did look. I was really annoyed to find out that you can't send Monero directly to it, but you can send Zcash. I am going to slightly rag on Zcash for that. That's me having fun.
Maybe you want to do like okay. Yeah, that's annoying.
But that is annoying. But honestly, like it's a good initiative to support. It will help us kind of get there. And it goes back, what you guys were saying about fractional banking and fractional reserve exchanges. I mean, you don't have to worry about that service you don't have to worry about that on Basic Swap. That's just not a thing that's possible because of the nature of that service. So we could have a widespread, fully decentralized exchange network with no risk of censorship, no risk of fractional banking, no risk of any of this BS that you currently have to deal with. That is highly liquid, highly scalable, extremely accessible to the mainstream, and very easy to promote. And before I finish, I'm really impressed with the work you guys have done on XMR Bazaar over the last year, and I've been keeping eyes on it. You've done a great job of promoting it and building up the inventory on it. I'm really proud of you guys. if we can get this onto mobile, that underlying architecture, I believe, could be used to help bring XMR Bazaar to mobile as well,
That'd be
and
amazing.
make it decentralized. So that is something to keep in mind for the future.
All right, Offering man, what's going on?
Not much. Thank you for the entrance music.
You need your own song, right? We need a special anthem just for you. I never know when you're gonna show up, man. I wanted you to do a Monero talk, but I got to take you when I could get you. So thanks for jumping up.
It's not just that it's busy, that I'm like busy or whatever. It's just this, everything's a little chaotic. Body knows what I mean. It's everything's up and then down and then sideways. Long nights. And,
the devs are in the trenches right now, so I respect that, right?
It's hard to make any concrete statements on anything. Like if we're talking about when DNS checkpoints are going to deploy, we were thinking in the next couple of days, but then we did a little test yesterday and found an issue. So, back to the drawing board to figure out how to, because we can't just deploy it and then have the cure be worse than the cancer.
For sure.
Right.
But obviously, DNS checkpointing is still looking like it's got legs and will be what we use in the interim.
Yeah. No, what basically we deployed them on testnet, on the actual live testnet, and I went and I decided to practice selfish mining and see if I could break it, and I broke it in a couple minutes, and so that wasn't great.
That's not good. No bueno. But at least you realized it, right?
Yeah, right. Because we did. We were testing for a couple weeks before that, but missed this one edge case. So now we've got a couple guys looking into it, trying to fix it. It's not a big issue. Well, it's a big issue if it was to happen on mainnet, but it's not like a catastrophic issue that would block us from moving forward. It's just something that has to be fixed.
Mm-hmm. What do you see as the current overarching strategy, right? So we have DNS checkpointing as being an interim safe
publish or perish.
We can implement right away. But then, what's kind of the more some of the other things that are on the front burner right now?
First, the stuff that wouldn't take a hard fork. So publish or perish, along with DNS checkpoints. So you could have publish or perish as a soft fork, and then there's another version that Theodore put out that's
right.
It works alongside with DNS checkpoints.
Yep.
So both of those don't require a hard fork, but they require a little bit of coding, and those help work to mitigate the issues. And that's,
you say mitigate. How far do you think that takes us? Is the publish or perish? Does that get us to where we need to be, or do you think proof of work?
Well, the thing is, if you use DNS checkpoints on their own, they're a little bit centralizing. And that's the thing. They're only centralizing because of the way they're being deployed, because of who's deploying them. Like Data Hoarder has different ways to deploy the DNS checkpoints in a more decentralized manner, where there'd be more than you can have 10 different people that are contributing the checkpoints, and they have to cross-reference with each other before they can be deployed. So it wouldn't be as centralized as what we're moving forward with to begin with. But DNS checkpoints prevent deep reorgs, so you can't have invalidated transactions, and they combat selfish mining. So you wouldn't be able to selfish mine more than a few blocks deep. Where publish or perish punishes selfish mining worse. So that it would basically force Cubic to mine honestly. Where these together aren't something we'd look at long term, because DNS checkpoints aren't something we want to be constantly deploying forever, because that relies on people publishing them.
Mm-hmm.
But publish or perish on its own is something that it doesn't prevent the 51% attack, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the boogeyman right now, is that Cubic hasn't demonstrated that they have 51%. But let's say somebody's watching what Cubic is doing and they have access to 51%. Then that's an issue. But where it comes to the opposition against proof of stake, it's like a lot of the better arguments are that we have no idea how much Monero is owned by exchanges, governments, bad actors, darknet markets. Who knows, right?
Canadian government.
No, because that's the perfect example. I think it's Arkham was tracking Trade Ogre's funds, and they only tracked like 30 million, and 30 million is because of the public funds they could track. So the other 26 million must have been in privacy coins, which means that the Canadian government has a potential 26 million in Monero, which is like 100,000 Monero. That's more than the community's 100,000 Monero. That's more than the community's gonna put up for stake, right? So it's like right from the bat, the Canadian government could have 67% of the proof of stake just because they
Canadian government's like, what the fuck is Monero?
Right?
Why do we have so much of it?
Yeah, there's a lot of people in Monero angry because a lot of them foolishly left their Monero on Trade Ogre, but hey, it happens.
Yeah, no, I feel bad because I think a lot of the people that got fleeced, right? They're like, obviously, Canadian government is framing this like it was all,
All criminal
doing
proceeds,
illegal things, right? But
Yeah.
I'm sure buying from most of the traders on there were just regular people that wanted to KYC free swap into privacy.
It wasn't even just that. It's that a lot of these low cap privacy coins don't have a home. They don't have.
Right.
They're not on any exchanges. They were on Trade Ogre. So you'd have something like Monero Ocean that mines all of these coins and sells them and buys Monero. So Monero Ocean would sell Darrow and all these other coins that I don't know the names of to retail on Trade Ogre. So the people that were buying these coins aren't criminals. They're just people that wanted to invest in the coin that they couldn't buy it from anywhere else. Right? And
but yeah, so back to your argument here of why this concerns you with regards to any proof of stake options being discussed.
Yeah, it's I think it was I think it was JW Winter, or J Winter M. He had done some math or some research to try to look at how much XMR the government may have seized over the years, and supposedly it might be over 4 million. Right, so it's like if the government is in possession, and we know the government doesn't sell Monero back to the public. So if we know the government's in possession of over 4 million Monero, then proof of stake is a no sale from the get go, because that's way too much Monero that's like almost 25% of the supply.
I see Dr. Cap looking to chime in on that.
I just think proof of stake is a non-starter for Monero. You need to have exceptionally high liquidity and provable distribution, like provable widespread distribution for a proof of stake network to work. Monero, you don't know who owns how much Monero. Like you can guesstimate it at times based on anecdotal or very circumstantial information, but without really high levels of distribution and without really high levels of base liquidity at that point of distribution, you've got a network that's going to fail, because it will gradually. I wrote a whole freaking paper on this, and it's basically pinned to my Twitter profile. I posted the links as well. Ironically, I wrote a whole paper just criticizing the liquidity dynamics of proof of stake. It leads to a death spiral in liquidity, because what happens, you see this with the vast majority of proof of stake networks. I'll talk about the exception, and I can talk about the exception in a minute, but the vast majority, if you launch a proof of stake coin, what happens is you need someone to provide some liquidity for that to be traded against initially. And that's great. You create a community, people believe in that coin, they hoard it. Okay, well, what happens next? They hoard it to stake it, like a good chunk of them, and they're staking it at a given inflationary rate. All right, so they're getting their passive return. Okay, well, then what happens? The supply, these people, they start buying most of that supply up, and then they start staking it. And okay, what happens when the price dips? You got a natural tendency for the same people to buy up that supply. You don't have a tendency for them to sell it, to distribute it. If you're selling something, that means you're giving it to someone else, which means it's now in someone else's hands, which means they have to learn about it, they have to understand it, ideally, and the onus is on you. You're actually distributing knowledge of this network, which means you're distributing liquidity, like the flow of information. So if you've got a network where all of the incentives are aligned towards accumulation, hoarding, whenever the price drops, it will be the same people that buy it. And then after a while, the price will just drop to a certain point where, all right, it's fine. Let's just stake forever. And it'll go to a while where the issuance continues, but there's no but the people who've bought it, they've basically run out of whatever counterparty currency they want, the fiat or other crypto or whatever, and they're like, we're done buying, and then you just leave it staking, and then you have a network that's essentially valueless, probably fairly centralized in terms of its distribution. It can be secure provided those stakers are essentially honest. So you can actually have proof of worthlessness, which is that you just have a bunch of people who are staking this network who aren't malicious actors, but the base value of that token is not much, and it's been held for speculative reasons. So I just think it's a non-starter for Monero, because it worked for, this is the exception, it worked for Ethereum because Ethereum was a publicly traceable network. You could kind of map and go, all right, it was pretty well distributed for a number of years beforehand because it had proof of work, and proof of work creates continuous sell pressure, and that continuous sell pressure creates continuous distribution pressure. Plus the miners who are selling are incentivized to promote the network to spread awareness of it. Whereas in staking, you just be lazy and passive. That's the thing. So, Ethereum had achieved huge distribution as a consequence of proof of work, and at the same time, it had built up liquidity to a very high level. And then they did the switch over, and that you can have maintain a degree of credibility for that, because at least you can go, okay, we can see the distribution of wallets, we can see the clear distribution of balances here, and we know the base value. It's not an easy thing to attack unless you are a huge Wall Street bank. And that's actually what's happening right now, ironically, which is, it's being bought up by hedge funds. So that's my, sorry, I'm rambling.
No, that was actually a very, very good take on, simply explaining what the doomsday scenario is. With that proof of stake, not even doomsday scenario, that what the inevitable evolution of it is. Obviously, Monero is proof of work mineable from the day it was born as well. So there's argument to be that it's probably pretty fairly distributed. But given that it's private, you don't know who has it. Governments are confiscating it. It does leave a question mark. It's not analogous to what happened with Ethereum. So overall, do you guys, and I guess Offer first, so do you guys think proof of stake is a complete non-starter, even like as a finality layer with like what Luke is looking to do with his proposal?
Well, with what Luke is looking to do, like he said himself, that it's supposed to be capped at around 500 validators. And that to me is a non-starter. 500 validators means it's going to be the 500 richest people in Monero, which is like exchange, government, exchange. Like there's, like if you look at ETH, even ETH has 32 as the minimum stake, and 32 ETH is over $100,000. So a lot of the people that stake their ETH just deposit it on an exchange, and let the exchange stake it for them. So that's not like it's if staking itself doesn't scale, then I understand if you mine at home on your home computer that you might only get 0.0001 Monero, but there's no limit on how low your hash rate can be for you to get your Monero. Where with staking, there's a limit on the minimum amount of coins you can have in order to be a staker.
Right. It's less permissionless. Anybody can partake in securing the Monero network via proof of work.
But yeah, but not. And the other problem with Monero, when it comes to distribution, is people like to gloss over it. But Monero didn't have the most fair distribution. Like I'm mining on testnet, and in the first 3,000 blocks, that's like less than 5 days. There's over 100,000 Monero in my testnet wallet. You know what I mean? So in the first 5 days of Monero's birth, over 100,000 Monero were distributed to the 3.5 people that were using it. Right, and these days there's less than that. There's like that much that comes out in a year, right? So it depends on where all that early Monero is, how much exchanges own, how much governments own. Because other than that, we're just handing over finality of Monero to who knows what. All I know is it's probably not us. You know what I mean? Like it's not me, it's not you, it's not Dr. Cap, it's not us that have these millions of Monero.
Mm-hmm. It's that professor, right? Well, what's that guy's name? There was some early big miner of Monero. It might come to me. So Ofrin, what do you think of these other proof of work proposals, particularly work shares? That's one that's being discussed a lot. Obviously, people are kind of excited about it because we heard the Cubic guy, Dr. K, not Dr. Cap, Dr. K gave us his reasoning why he's a proof of work maxi.
Quai guy,
And,
not cubic guy.
I'm sorry, Quai guy, and then how they've essentially perfected proof of work through implementing what they call work shares.
Well,
think
when I look
that's
at work shares,
valid?
I think work shares they remind me of P2 pool, where the Coinbase is split up
Yes,
into many different pieces. And
exactly.
the problem with P2 pool is it doesn't scale. Like
Mm-hmm.
for example, if a Monero fee is 0.0004 Monero, you can't have a Coinbase that's less than that. Otherwise, spending it is going to cost more than that just to transact it. So so P2
Did you
pool itself.
speak? Did you speak to Dr. K on this? Because I know he was in the MRL. I saw him talking with people. I'm just curious if you
No,
got to.
I just read along. I just read along
Okay.
with that discussion. But
Well,
it
I guess
was
did he respond to that criticism?
yeah, and I think he drew back a little bit and had to go back to the
Okay.
drawing board a little bit. It was mostly Tevador that was presenting good arguments against it.
Mm-hmm.
I had an idea. It's a very straight thought. I haven't fleshed it out by any means, but is it possible, and I'd be curious your thoughts on this, Offering and Dr. Cap, is it possible that we could use work shares in a separate data structure for finality, right? So not for block weighting or block generation, but as a finality mechanism?
I'm not sure if
Stumped.
you brought that up or somebody else did, but I
That
think
was
I
me.
heard somebody bring. That was you. Okay, yeah. No, so I've read along on that conversation too, and I didn't really chime into it too much. I was working more on the DNS checkpoints because it's been a month since we proposed it, and having that 18 block reorg while we're quote unquote working on it was kind of annoying. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, like we should have had this out weeks ago. There shouldn't have been 115 transactions invalidated. We shouldn't be dealing with this nonsense right now, and here we are, you know, having temper tantrums every day about whether we should go proof of stake or Ethereum or whatever. I'm like, let's just get these DNS checkpoints out, and then we can like go back to the drawing board. Because once the DNS checkpoints are out, you're not invalidating any more transactions. Your selfish mining profits are going to drop unless you want to mine honestly. So, my
And
main
we're not even
focus is
sure if
on.
they're profitable, right? Like it's possible that they're doing this at a loss.
No, I do think they're doing it at a loss because I don't think there's anybody buying Cubic,
Yeah. Well, the
right? Like I
traditional,
Offer.
think they're the ones that are like even CFB. He's said himself that people have asked him to remove his buy wall. Like a lot of that is him buying it. He's buying it at low prices, so they're not getting their profit. There's mining pools that are not. There's miners and mining pools that have come out to say that their pay is not what it's supposed to be. It's actually less than if they would have mined Monero directly, and they're mad about it. There's pools that stopped mining Cubic, like A pool. They stopped mining Cubic because Cubic's payouts were less than advertised. So I don't think there's anybody buying Cubic. I think it's CFB funding his own operation.
yeah, or potentially being funded by other entities.
Yeah.
I spent some time in the selfish mining literature this past week, and most of these strategies, I didn't see a single one where the strategy was to remain totally silent until you just reorg the chain. All of their maximum profit strategies were effectively create contention for the chain head, right? So either stay one block ahead of the chain head or match the honest chain blocks, one for one to try and split the hash power. But none of them said to remain silent. So yeah, it does seem like with these 10 and 18 or 9 and 18 block reorgs that they can't be acting in their best profit interest.
No, and I've been like doing it myself, like on testnet. We've been running selfish mining on testnet. Like we're all, say it says there's 2.5 kilohash on testnet. I'll put 2.5 kilohash out and see how how hard it is to beat the chain. And it's not easy, right? So there's only one of two things they could be doing, which is buying a lot of hash rate in bursts in order to get ahead, and then drawing it back in order and just staying ahead, right? Because they're not getting these leads like organically. That's why they have to have empty blocks. They have to withhold transactions. Like they're not able to stay ahead organically. It's not that easy. And when they do it, I feel like they're extending it longer and longer just because the main chain is catching up. So as soon as the main chain is about to catch up or pass them, they release theirs. But I don't think their initial times they get ahead are completely organic. I think they burst the hash rate for a few minutes.
How damaging do you consider these reorgs? Because I feel like people almost are starting to ignore them now.
Over 10 blocks is bad. When I say bad, I mean like I dealt with personally somebody that had contacted support because they weren't able to use their wallet. They had sent hundreds of XMR and none of the transactions were confirming and they couldn't use their wallet. And then there was other people who contacted me about their missing money. Like they got sent $20 from an exchange and it disappeared from their wallet. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem, is when you invalidate the transactions, they essentially get refunded. So you can have a transaction that during 18 block reorg, you could have a transaction that had 8 confirmations that just disappeared into thin air. So that's where I'm like, we should have had these DNS checkpoints out before that.
Well, when you say disappear, like, and there's no way of getting it, like people potentially lost Monero during this?
Yeah. The people that sent the money got their money back. And they might not even realize. They might just look at their wallet and see that they have a bigger balance, but don't realize that
the people that were supposed to receive it didn't get it, right?
Didn't get it. But there are some exchanges like Kraken who raised their deposits to 32 confirmations, so Kraken didn't lose any money on that. But then you have swappers like Fixed Float that might have had 2, 5, or 8 confirmations that might have lost money during this. Now the good thing is the only time I've heard about anybody potentially losing money was the one person that had $20, and they said they deleted the wallet. So I'm not sure if I completely believe that they lost money, but I do know for a fact that 115 different transactions were sent that were refunded. So whether or not those 115 people resent the same transactions to the same people in the same amounts and cleared up their debt is yet to be seen. But yeah,
I gotta check. One of those might have been me sending a tip Sunday night on the XMR Bazaar forums.
Yeah. But that's where Body was talking about the Grim Trigger. That's where we were saying the Grim Trigger was activated. That's like as soon as they did that, the whole discussion about whether or not we should deploy DNS checkpoints, like any contention against it, is to me it's just somebody that's a bad actor. Like, are you seriously saying we should sit around for the next 3 months while people lose money? Yeah. That doesn't make any sense to me. The DNS checkpoints aren't centralized in the way that Ofrn just writes some random numbers into a file and then pushes them to nodes and forces them to reorg onto whatever blockchain I want them to. That's not how it works. The way we're doing it is that, let's say for the last 10 years, there's never been a reorg deeper than 3 blocks or deeper than 2 blocks. We're setting it so that anything 2 blocks or older is essentially finalized. So all of the mining pools, and it's basically a miner activated software. So you have to have the majority of the miners opt in, and once they opt in, any blocks that these miners have stored that are more than 2 blocks old can't be reorged. So Cubic would have to reorg 1 block at a time if they want a selfish mine, and they can't afford to do that. Like I was saying, the only way that it looks like they're able to do this is that they rent hash rate for a short period of time to get 1 or 2 blocks ahead, and then they maintain that. Like they don't keep pumping out the massive amounts of hash rate that they just rented or purchased or stole with a botnet, who knows. But they have to maintain that. But if they maintain that for more than 2 blocks, now they lose. Because once they release that selfish mine chain, it gets obliterated. It doesn't exist anymore. It gets rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's also a good chance that what they're doing is using some, like, I don't know, let's just say it's like a 20-minute period of massively boosted rented hash rate, and they get ahead by, let's just say it's 10 blocks. Probably what they're doing from then on is like trying to extend that lead. Like that's their window of opportunity until the chain catches up where they could hypothetically extend that lead. So then they mine on the hash power that they have, which is some amount that's significantly lower, right, after paying to get ahead. And then, so maybe they can get another 5, 6, 7 blocks after that. It's hard to say. I'm really hoping that by next week I'll be able to have something that looks like a validated and like a validated simulation, because in a very, very, like, as I was sort of just checking the logic, some of the pure 31, like at 31% selfish mining, I was seeing where they could reorg, like occasionally they could reorg like 10 or 15 blocks without actually getting ahead in hash rate for a period of time, that just by random chance they could get ahead. So I'm hoping that I can like send that to you guys. That'll be useful for some kind of modeling.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've seen Ruckmium's his write up on it, but he has similar numbers where he's saying that with I think 35 or 40% hash rate, you could do at least one 18 block reorg every day by chance.
That's
like,
what I was saying.
I don't think Cubic is just like you said, they're not selfish, they're not doing it by the book. They're not just pumping out their selfish mind hash rate. They're playing, they're gaming it. So I think that if they were to just try to, just run it nonstop all day, they might be able to hit that every day. But I think they're trying to hit that every day. That's why they do a 6 block here and a 5 block there and a 2 block here. They're constantly trying to see how far ahead they can get.
It's actually possible that they're showing some restraint. Honestly, it could be possible that they're restraining themselves from what they could actually do.
Well, they were restraining themselves up until the 18 block rework, and then they went all over Twitter saying it didn't happen. There was no invalid transactions. There was no double spends. We're a bunch of liars. And then they did it again like 2 days later where they invalidated one more transaction. They did a 10 block reorg and invalidated. Yeah, so that's where I'm like we need to get these DNS checkpoints out, because like they're playing with us right now. Like they know they can screw, because as soon as somebody loses a lot of money, it's going to be an issue. The fact that nobody's complained about losing money yet means that either nobody's noticed or that everybody was honest and paid their debts after they realized that they got refunded. So
it is a concern.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully this DNS checkpointing thing gets implemented sooner than later, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like the pull request is ready, well, except for the bug. So as soon as that last bug is fixed, then I can torture test it some more and make sure that everything heals itself properly. Because the way the bug works is, let's say I'm running a node and Body's running a node, and Doug is the one selfish mining, and I receive checkpoint number 100, and Body has checkpoint number 103, just because my node hasn't updated yet. And Doug releases a reorg on let's say block 102. Then my node will reorg on the Doug's chain, but then my node will receive the new checkpoint for block 103, 104, and then it will try to switch to block 103, 104 and fail, and the node gets stuck. So it can't produce blocks, it can't sync, so that's not can't do that. Basically, what's supposed to happen is my node's supposed to get that checkpoint and then reorg back onto the longer chain. It's not supposed to get stuck.
I know that I already have my node set to enforce DNS checkpointing, so that as soon as that is out, my node is automatically going to enforce them.
As soon as it's out, you should update though, because currently the checkpoints are only updated every hour. So it's not it's okay though, because if you're not mining, then you don't really have control over the blockchain. The longest chain will
I'm
get
mining
pushed to your node.
No,
I mean, if you're not you would be a part of the biggest part of the hash of the total hash rate, not the honest hash rate, the total hash rate. So yeah, you would want to update and you would want to keep enforcing, because if you don't, then if you get reorged onto Cubic's chain for any amount of time, then your hash rate now gets added to their side of the blockchain, which could give them.
Kevin Tip 30 cents is a good question. Are there any long-term solutions for 51% attack? Is ASIC resistant algorithm a double-edged sword for decentralization?
I don't feel ASIC resistance is a double-edged sword for decentralization. I feel like not just feel like. If you look at Zcash, Zcash decided, oh, let's use a new ASIC algo, and they have 80% stuck on one pool with one company producing 100% of the ASICs for, right? You're totally at the mercy of Bitmain. I don't think that's an argument at all.
Right.
But
This
as far as
isn't an ASIC problem. This is
yeah,
a problem with incentives with pools being able to pull more people into your pool.
and when Monero did have ASICs, Bitmain owned over 91% of the hash rate, and we hard forked to get rid of them.
Yeah,
Like,
ASICs
you know what I'm saying? So
of course.
yeah.
I'm going to have to go very shortly, guys, but I just want to add to this. I think if you go down the ASIC route, again, I think that's a non-starter. Simple reason, I'm going to say this and it's going to piss off Bitcoiners. ASICs are just 1 degree separated from proof of stake. It's just
100%.
proof of stake with one extra step. There's zero point to having ASICs. You're going to lose your decentralization.
We don't mind pissing off Bitcoiners here.
So that's my take. But hey, it's been a pleasure, guys.
Wait, but before Dr. Cap goes,
Dr. Cap, before you go, maybe Offer can say some things about Basic Swap. Go ahead.
Yeah. So for the Basic Swap thing, for where the question was about APIs, whether you could run your own. I think with multinet that should work, because with multinet you don't have to run a particle daemon to run S-message. You could run S-message over basically your own API, whether it's Simplex or Telegram or whatever, and that could communicate back with full Basic Swap instances that relay the transactions to everybody else. So I think multinet is the answer to the whether or not you could run your own API.
Oh, so you'd have to develop your own API. Okay, but yeah.
No, not necessarily develop your own, because it already supports Simplex. So let's say you have Simplex on your phone and you set your Basic Swap to that Simplex group address or whatever, then that would relay it back to other people who on their computers are running it on Simplex and on Particle.
Oh, that would be epic. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say 100%. Couldn't agree more with Dr. Cap's assessment that ASICs are basically just proof of stake. Like, that's it's so close to proof of stake, and it's 2 companies now. It used to just be one company, Bitmain, that basically owned ASICs. So it's like it's a non-starter.
But yeah, I just want to say before I go, thank you so much for having me on. I know I can only do these so often just because of my own schedule, but yeah, I'm going to be pushing hard to try and get us to MoneroTopia.
Awesome.
So just, I can't commit to anything just yet, but it's definitely
do what you got to do. Yeah, we appreciate your support in past conferences. So whatever we got to do to work out to make it happen, you're more than happy to work with you guys, because you guys have been so supportive to us, and I think it would be great timing, right, with everything that's happening with Basic Swap and then Monero in general. Would love to keep you guys in the mix down there. So thank you, man. Thank you, Dr. Cap. You're always welcome on this show. Offer anything else you want to bring up, man, while we have you?
Yeah, so I wanted to continue on Basic Swap. So Basic Swap, we're on desktop right now. You have to run nodes for everything. It's planned that you should be able to, for non-Monero, for Bitcoin forks, they should be able to use Electrum. So like basically the same sort of wallet that you would have with Cake or whatever. So you don't need your own node. You could just specify an Electrum server and connect to that. So you wouldn't. Awesome. So even on desktop, you wouldn't have to run all of the blockchains. Mm-hmm. But the idea with desktop, and like I argue with people about this all the time, is there's 2 different things with DEXs. You can run a DEX, or you can use a DEX. And with Basic Swap right now, you're running the DEX. So that's why you run all the blockchains and everything else, because you're the infrastructure. In order to interact with it, you don't have to run the infrastructure. I mean, you don't have to run all the blockchains. You don't have to check out all the transactions by yourself. It's just like with Thorchain or anything else. You could delegate that power to somebody else, to somebody else's node or somebody else's server or whatever. But yeah, so the biggest pain with Basic Swap right now, I don't think it's the installation. I think it's the storage requirements. Just having to run all the different nodes. You don't have to run all the different nodes, just the ones you want to swap with. But that's still
But when you say you don't have to run it, you can just use it. But we're not there yet where you can just use it without simultaneously running it.
Yeah, we're not there yet. But
Yeah.
there has been some additions where like there's like client authentication and other stuff like that where you could potentially, not yet, but you could potentially, like, I could run the back end for me, and when you log in, you could use my back end remotely without me having access to your wallets and all that other stuff. But that would involve you using Electrum wallets and everything else, and mine just being the one that relays the transactions using the nodes on my server. And yeah.
Yeah, and see, I don't know if this would be possible, but my thought would be, would it be possible to say, have, instead of downloading the full node for each blockchain, you could just download the last, say, week or 2 weeks or month worth of each chain. So you download a month worth of Litecoin, the last month worth of Litecoin, the last month worth of Monero, the last month worth of Bitcoin, the last month worth of whatever, so that you have a month's worth of the chain to go back and look at. But you're not going to be generally going back that far anyway.
Yeah, no, Basic Swap runs prune nodes by default. So for most of them, it's about 4 gigabytes of the last 4 gigabytes of the nodes. For some of them, but you could lower that to 550 megabytes. So you don't have to store, 20 to 250 gigabytes, 600 gigabytes of Bitcoin. You don't have to store that much data on your computer. Bitcoin, I think at its minimum is around 14 or 15 gigabytes, right? And with Monero, you can use remote nodes, like as usual, because Monero is better than the rest of these chains that don't allow remote nodes with their core software. So Monero's minimum is actually about 200-300 megabytes just to run Monero wallet RPC and to store the wallet files. Or with the other chains, it's running core software like Bitcoin Core or Litecoin Core, and those store the wallet on the node. So you have to run the node, which is why we're going to add Electrum support, so you could run an Electrum wallet that doesn't require a node to have a wallet.
Does the divide between core and knots on Bitcoin have any implications for Basic Swap and the way it functions on that chain?
It shouldn't, but Basic Swap it checks the signatures of all the software when it downloads them and everything. But you can, like, say you're already running knots, you should be able to connect Basic Swap to your knots, like to your existing knots node.
Okay, because I know there's a civil war going on in Bitcoin over that right now.
Yeah. But for some things like Basic Swap, or sorry, not Basic Swap, Bitcoin Cash, it's Bitcoin Cash has like very different node implementations, so I don't think those are cross compatible. I think you'd have to use the Bitcoin Cash node that it comes with.
Offered, how are you feeling about Monero's code base in general, other than the issue we're dealing with right now, like things like full chain membership proofs, any other issues? I mean, you're putting out this fire right now, but what are some of the other things you're most concerned about right now in Monero?
Well, yeah. So with full chain membership proofs and DNS checkpoints are the two things that I've been focused on for the last like 3 or 4 months. Like on my full chain membership proofs testnet, my private testnet, I got blocks up to about 40 megabytes, like spamming tons of transactions, making sure everything works. Found a few issues, a few bugs here and there. Had a lot of stuff fixed. And like Jay Berman, working with Jay Berman, he fixed most of the issues that I've been able to discover. So there's the public testnet, stressnet for full chain membership proof should be coming like any day now, because it's finally in a state where it's probably stable enough to be used. It's not stable enough for mainnet yet, but it's probably good enough that we can deploy it to a lot of different people and test it on a wider sample. So I think
so that's very exciting. You're doing a lot, man. You're doing a lot these days. You're working on Basic Swap. You're working on obviously helping out with implementing the changes that we need to see to thwart the cubic attack. You're working on helping to implement full chain membership proofs. You helped out with the Nodo in a very big way. A lot of people don't even know that. Yeah. We sent you a Nodo, and you were helping tweak the code. I announced last week or the week before I'm no longer part of that project, but I believe you know, you did a lot. You contributed a lot to that, so thank you. What are there other things you're working on too, man? Monero related?
Just a little bit of everything, but those are my main focuses right now. Even with basic swap, I took like a week break or so. It's kind of just ignored everybody because I was like I was more worried about the cubic stuff. Not worried, but I
Yeah,
was like,
there's more immediate need.
yeah. And same thing with full chain membership proofs. For the longest time, nobody had tested anything. Like the developers were developing, they were testing their code as they went along, but nobody was running a node. Nobody was practicing it. Like nobody was actually seeing if any of this stuff actually worked. Right. So, I had a temper tantrum one day in one of the MRL meetings when they first delayed the test net. They were like, "Oh, we're not going to do it now. We're going to wait." And I was like, "What do you mean we're not going to do it now? And when are we going to do it?" And we keep pushing it back, and nobody's ever tested this stuff. So I went and I got instructions from them, ran it, found a lot of issues. And that's the same thing like with DNS checkpoints. It's like people take for granted that we're a community. We're not, we're not an organization. We don't have people designated to do certain jobs. So it's like if you don't do, it's like if they say if you want something done right, do it yourself. But it's like in this situation, it's like if you want something done at all, do it yourself.
Yeah, is it the tragedy of the common situation, right? Everybody assumes somebody
Yeah.
else is doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like with DNS checkpoints, it's me, Rucknium, and Data Horde, right? And it's like people on the outside think there's 100 different people that are working on stuff, but I'm like, no, it's just the three of us that decided like, hey, we need to get this done. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we need to stop talking about it in a group of 40 people where 39 of them don't actually want to do anything. Right? It's like same thing with Body, where Body's making a simulator, right? Like, people would talk about it, but nobody's doing it. Right? So it's like,
Until Body stepped up, took the reins.
Right? But that's where it's like, I appreciate anybody that puts actions to their words. Like doesn't just talk about, oh, we should do this or we should do that or maybe this and maybe that. Like Tevador especially, he's put out like 5-6 different well thought out proposals. Like this is him going home, sitting down and figuring stuff out on his own while everybody else is arguing about whether we should piggyback on Ethereum. Right. So
that is the real work being done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything you want to put out there in terms of maybe ideas on how we could improve the development ecosystem for Monero so we could get more things done?
I think the main thing is that people need to just like to do. Like it's because a lot of people from the outside they think that there's necessarily an approval process, but there's no approval. Like the reason Arctic Mind had an issue with Luke's CCS is because people on the outside will look at a funded CCS like this is the only one we're going to pay attention to because it has money behind it. Where that's not the case at all. Arctic Mind doesn't want anybody to stop contributing ideas for free because everybody's contributing what they're doing for free. Like Tevador hasn't asked for a penny, right? So it's like if we're going to fund this one guy, why should anybody else submit their solutions, right? And that's one of the main issues Arctic Mind has with Kaya's CCS proposal is that we shouldn't be funding people before. Like it's one thing to have let's get 1,000 Monero and pay 100 Monero to each person that has a valid solution. That's completely different than saying let's give 200 Monero to one guy and nothing to everybody else. Because what that's going to do is make everybody come out and say we all want 200 Monero, and we're just going to submit AI slot.
Right.
And that's that's a big problem that we've been dealing with. Is a lot of people that are just pushing garbage. Right, and it's like filtering through the noise is like we're just asking what's one of the hardest parts with the code base. It's that we're light on developers, and that new contributors are pushing a lot of garbage, right? So
yeah, I saw the comment someone basically talking about that. Please stop submitting AI bugs. It's just a nonsense, noisy AI, and anyone that's played with code that's working, like take any code that's working and working well and submit it to an AI. for whatever reason, it has to find something, even if it's great, even if you have something great. You pump that into the latest LLM and it's going to come out with 10 things and say, well, this is wrong and probably this is wrong. And well, this could happen. And it's just going to be absolute fucking garbage. Like it's,
we went from like 1 or 2 HackerOne reports per month to like 3 or 4 per week.
Jesus.
You know what I mean? So that takes people like VT Nerd and Celsta and Jeffro away from what they're doing to read this 400 lines of proof of concept garbage to realize that there was no issue. And it's like, this is ridiculous, right? Like, what do we do? Like, how do you, like, because the one time you ignore something is the one time it's going to be valid, right? So it's AI has been a real battery drain on everything because we're already light on people. Jeffro and Jay Berman are focused mostly on full chain membership proofs. VT Nerds focused on the core code base. You know, Jeffro contributes to the core code base too, but we don't have people think, oh, Monero's got 400 developers. No, we don't. Like,
yeah.
You know, you have a CFB on Twitter saying, oh, we're working with the Monero team. Like, no, you're not. Like, nobody at Monero is working with you. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of misinformation out there, misunderstanding in terms of how things actually get done.
Yeah, and you know the few people that are working around the clock are really working around the clock. Like that's where, you know, like for me personally, I'll get like a little angry sometimes when I wake up in the morning and see some long-time Monero community members talking about we need to move to proof of stake, blah 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 blah, spreading FUD at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, man, can you like go away? Like, I understand that everybody loves you. You're you know, people have you know been a fan of yours for years and whatever. But you're not educated on this subject, and all you're doing is wasting everybody that's working's time because you're not doing anything. You're just spreading FUD. You like you're feeding into the nonsense. Like,
how about this? If you think we should go to proof of stake, then please come up with an algorithm, develop something, develop a proof of concept, put it out there, right? Like maybe we don't need to
push the code
200 Monero to figure that out. You know, like if that's what you
push the
think,
code.
You want to argue for proof of stake, I'm all about it. But like you said, push the code.
Yep. And you know, with another problem that people won't say in public, but they'll say in DMs and stuff, that the issue that they have with with Luke's proposal is that not long ago he left Monero for a bunch of different reasons. Like, you know, he didn't like the environment or whatever else. He left Monero and didn't want to contribute to Monero anymore. And then as soon as this happens, he comes back pushing proof of stake. And instead of like he did with full chain membership proofs, like you mentioned, with full chain membership proofs, he did the research, he did a proof of concept, and he came to CCS after he had something working. With this, he came and he said, I'll write a for dummies book. Take it or leave it. You know what I mean? It's sort of to me, it's a little bit disrespectful because it's playing on people's heartstrings. It's basically saying to the community, like, do you love me or do you love me not? And I'm like, well, like, come on, we know you're capable enough to just push the code. And we know we'll pay you for the code, but you want to write a book about it when everybody else, like Tevador, is pushing ideas, like pushing like we don't need the book. I'm not saying we don't need the book. I'm saying like push the code with the book, and people would be a little bit less apprehensive about it. But it's it's merged now. It's for funding. You know, you'll get his money, and we'll get the book, and then after that, we'll find out what it takes to actually follow one of the recommendations in the book. Mm-hmm. But as it is, the book coming a month from now doesn't solve any issues of today.
For sure. Do you think there is a chance that something workable comes from what Luke is looking into? Or like you said, like it's all those potential options are completely off the table for you? Well,
that's the thing. Is like in the book, it's supposed to compare all the different options. So it's like we're doing that already. like we're gonna get a synopsis from Luke, and it's gonna come with his recommendation on what we should do, which we're all pretty sure that recommendation is gonna be the finality layer. But while he's doing that, Tevador's come up with 5 more ideas. right? It's like we're not just going to take what's in the book as gospel. When I say we, I mean there's not even that many people that are in the we, right? So it's like, why are you forcing? Like, you shouldn't be forcing your ideas on people like that. It's to me it just seems like he wanted to be paid to come back. He didn't want to come back. Like like I'm saying, he left the community. He didn't want to
Well,
come back.
he never left though. I don't think.
Yeah, he wrote a big. He wrote a big letter.
I had him on the show after he wrote that up. I mean, I think it was.
When I say left the community, I meant left contributing to Monero. He still contributed to full chain membership proofs. He
Which
still
is
worked with Jay
Monero,
Berman.
right? That's
no.
yeah.
That's on his own repo, and that's his own pet project, like his own organization, Monero Oxide. Like, he doesn't contribute to Monero Corp. He didn't join in on the MRL conversations or the meetings or any of that stuff. Like, this isn't saying anything to slight him. This is just saying that it was sort of like a messy breakup. Like, you know what I mean? It was, he didn't like the way some people were acting, and he said, "I'm out." And we're like, okay. And then he came back saying,
listen,
okay, well,
I mean, you guys are in the trenches, right? And you're all very intelligent, and you could say no, there's no egos involved, but there's egos involved with everybody involved. And just from an outsider perspective, and I'm on the normie level, it's exciting to see. I see it as a positive that, all right, sucks we're having these 5-alarm fires now, but the fact that Luke ran to try to come and help out, I see as a positive sign, not like as a, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would look at that positively, that he is trying to get back involved again. Now, all right, he's pitching it as, give me 175 Monero to
research
publish this
his
book, but
to research his
I still
ideas.
see it as positive that it pulls him back in. Then he wants to contribute. I don't know. I just think you guys are so important. I don't want to see any of you, be like, screw Monero just because they don't want to deal with the personalities and everybody that's in the room.
Think about it like with you and Maverick, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's one thing for Maverick to exist. It's another for you to blame all of us for that. You know what I mean? It's like he could be as mad as he wanted to be about the people that he wasn't getting along with. But those weren't the people doing any work. So I don't know what you know what I mean? I don't know how that fell on, how that led to I'm leaving Monero. But it's like, we're not Monero Maverick. We're not a bunch of Nazis. Like, we're just contributors. Just like, but it's like, okay, whatever. People weren't going to fight him on it. They weren't going to beg him or whatever. And it's
please.
I mean, I'm not trying to harp on him. He's a good guy.
Well, yeah, I don't think his issues with thinking that there was Nazis in the dev community. It was more so what he saw as the broader community, and he was a little, he didn't want to associate with those people, which is
Hey, there's something I don't understand. Actually, it's so I thought he wanted a CCS to pursue specifically the finality layer, but is this a different thing now to just generally pursue proof of stake solutions, or like generally pursue the solution space? Like, are there other separate things?
It's just to generally pursue different solutions. And it's like, the CCS is called finality layer, but it's not about a book on the finality layer. He's supposed to be comparing different solutions, and to give his recommendation on the way we should move forward. Which is like, that's a fair thing to research. But, the CCS is called finality layer. And when he first brought it up, it wasn't like, oh, let's hear what everybody has to say, and then, okay, I'm going to propose the finality layer. It was like, I'm proposing a finality layer. You like it? No, you don't like it? Okay, well, I'm proposing Ether. You don't like it? Okay, well, I'm going to make a CCS for the finality layer, and I'll show you guys in the book why my idea is good.
I mean, I can understand dedicated exploration of how a finality layer could work. To think that could be done in a month, so taking another step back, to think that you could truly at depth understand the like 10 or 20 different solutions that are on the table right now and write a book about that in a month and actually make a reel about that's I'm sorry, I don't care how smart you are. You're going to have to be like a 170 kind of IQ person to pull something like that off, and you're going to have to work 18 hours a day. Now, maybe he is that guy. Maybe he is 170.
I think he is, man. I think he is.
But even so, like, it takes time for stuff to percolate in your mind. Like, even if you're a high IQ kind of person, it takes time for things to percolate. It takes time to get breakthrough generalization vision out of like a nebulous cloud of information. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm just saying that, man, that's hard to believe. that 1 month is
And there-
enough to truly
and
evaluate.
there's new ideas coming up every day. So
Yeah.
let's say we merged it a month ago and the book was now finished. Tevador had 2 new ideas in the last week. Like those aren't in the book, right? So it's like, to me, it's like it's all fine and dandy, whatever. But the question is, okay, well, who's going to implement this? Like in the end, who's like, what's the implementation path, right? Like, regardless of whatever we're doing, if this is going to take a year and a half to come to an actual solution, then there's no rush to be pushing this through when we needed a solution today. Like, whatever happens next year is irrelevant. Like, sure, like, yeah, we're not trying to delay the year, keep pushing the year back, but if it's going to take a year to have an actual solution done, then there's no reason to spend an hour every week debating about whether or not we should like make a book about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not, like I'm saying, I'm not mad at the research, and that's the first thing I said is like, I'm all for funding research. My only point was it's like, well, what are we researching? Like, what's the end result supposed to look like, right? And that's where Arctic Mind's like, well, the end result shouldn't be there until we have all the ideas on the table in the first place. There shouldn't be a decision made by anybody or a recommendation made by anybody until we can actually look at, like you said, politically viable solutions. And proof of stake is not one that's going to go over well. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just hard fork all nilly-willy in Monero and expect people to hard fork with you.
The other thing is that, like, the guys, you and the other guys that can truly evaluate these proposals, y'all are, y'all are balls deep in trying to get DNS, the immediate mitigation, out and released so that we can stop the bleeding. So it's like we can't even really evaluate this stuff, because I mean, as much as I respect Luke and his intelligence and his capacity, like, we need all of you guys to also be able to evaluate all those things and come to some kind of consensus. And that's really hard to do. Like Rucknium said, he's like, well, I was busy working on, the MDP for some of this stuff. And then suddenly we had the Grim trigger, and now we have to do DNS checkpoint. So that pulls one of our smartest guys, Rucknium, at least the statistician level guy, that pulls him off to have to like put the fire out. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like I keep saying, it's going to take time, and only after the bleeding is stopped, I think, can do people have the latitude to really explore which solutions are the better ones.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're bleeding out, and as we're talking about the best way to improve heart health, it's like, well, we need to stop the bleeding before we can worry about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's all great, it's all fine and dandy for that, but that's like, what are we working on? The next chain, the new Monero, like after this Monero's dead, because we need to save this one first. Like,
very good point.
And the biggest problem I have, like, with some of the people that are pro the book, that are pro the CCS, is they're actively against DNS checkpoints. And I'm like, so you don't have a solution that works today, and you're basically pushing against the deployment of DNS checkpoints. And I'm like, look, we're not out here to fork the chain. You know what I mean? We're not out here to force anybody onto some new chain. We're out here to prevent invalid transactions, and if we can add proof of publish or perish to that, to also punish selfish mining. Like,
Well,
we're not hard forking. We're not. There's not a consensus level change.
In fairness to the proof of stake guys, they are saying to make the mitigation checkpointing on Ethereum.
But they're even saying that's weeks out. And I'm like, that's not weeks out. That's more like months out. Because, for example, let's say we have a release that we have to do in the next 2 days. It's not coming for a week. Like, Monero doesn't just release new binaries nilly-willy. People have to approve the pull request. The pull requests have to sit for a number of days to make sure that nobody objects to them. Then they have to be merged, and then we have to tag the release, and then we have to do reproducible builds to make sure that there's no malicious stuff being uploaded or anything. And then we put the release out. And that normally takes 3 or 4 days. Like, from the time that we tag the release to the time we put out the time we put out the binaries, it takes 3 or 4 days. So it's like, just to say that we're gonna do it on Ethereum, that's like, are we talking about a soft fork? Because if we're doing it on Ethereum with a soft fork, who is pushing the checkpoints to Ethereum? One person? 2 people? Like, you know what I mean? It's like who's pushing the checkpoints to Ethereum? Who's the one that's making this decision? Like, it's the same thing. Like, the only thing that's different is the place that's hosting the checkpoints is more decentralized now. But what's not different is who's pushing them. Right? So that's what I mean. Is it's like in any case, whether it's DNS checkpoints or Ethereum, the nodes are the ones that are making the checkpoints. So, you know, it doesn't make sense to me to piggyback on another network that's supposedly more decentralized. You know what I mean? It's like Ethereum's not the most decentralized network out there. Like,
yeah, I mean it's good, but you know, is it as decentralized as RandomX? No, like not a chance.
Right? Right? And it's like putting that into the code base is why are we adding Ethereum to the code base?
Yeah, that's the other thing I was wondering about. Like, how much bloat does that immediately add to the code base? Like, potentially forever. Like,
right? To me, it doesn't make sense because it's a contentious software where if I don't want to update and follow the Ethereum checkpoints, then who's following them and who's not? You know what I mean? If I don't update my node, so and the only way to make me follow them is a hard fork.
yeah,
right? It's like, do you think mining pools that are like focused on Monero, whatever, want to start spending 300 kilobytes, potentially more, to post the block onto the Ethereum blockchain? Like, that's like, these things aren't studied.
yeah. So the only way to get them to adopt it is you have to make it a plug and play where they just like click a few buttons and it's done. Because you know these guys don't want to go figure out how do I configure my Ethereum node and how do I now post this, and okay, now I have to integrate that into my cost structure, and what happens if there's
If there's an
heavy
outage
load
on
Ethereum.
yeah.
It sounds temptingly easy, and maybe there's some models that we can copy, like that are copyable, but
Yeah, like DPower or whatever from Pirate Chain, or there's a bunch of these things out there. But it's like with DNS checkpoints, even there's been discussion about how to delegate the DNS, or how to have 100 different people submitting checkpoints, and like I had to like put my foot down and be like, look, we can do that in like V2. Like, for now, we need to deal with the guys that's shooting at us like right now. Like, we're behind the wall. There's bullets coming through the wall, and we're getting hit. Like, we need to worry about the threat at hand before we can worry about the future. Decentralizing the DNS. Pardon?
I was just going to read a super chat. I guess it's not a super chat. It's just a YouTube comment. Kevin says, thank you, Ofrn, for your contributions to Monero.
Thank you, Kevin.
There was another one. Was it also Kevin? I saw it flashed up on the screen. It actually was an XMR chat. Oh, okay. Yeah, so Kevin, there was a part of your question here that we didn't answer. It says, are there any long-term solutions for 51% attack? And the question is the answer is maybe. The idea is that you can penalize by reorg depth or penalize by time, or give some kind of bonus, depending on like weight blocks on the basis of how long they've been visible. These are possibilities, but whether or not the trade-offs are worth it is still kind of an open question. Ethereum Classic did do a type of a depth penalty. They called it modified exponential scoring system or something like that. I started calling it depth penalty because it sounds cooler. Rich uncles and the depth penalty. So the answer is maybe, but we really have to analyze it a lot deeper to understand the trade-offs that might be involved.
Modified exponential scoring system just sounds like a mess.
That's what it turned out to be. They set their modification, their exponential part of that. They set it too aggressively to the point that it was acting like basically a checkpoint, and they were seeing network fractures, like minor accidental network fractures. So they actually rolled that back. But I think the idea still could be viable. It's just that it's a question of setting the constants involved so that you don't create this accidental checkpoint pivot point, but something that's much more smoothly scaled. But that's my speculation, right? That was like the whole idea. It was actually this whole the time weighted blocks or the penalization for for reorganization, stuff like that. It was that got me into making the simulator, because it's like this math is exploding. I can't solve this specifically. Like, this is too much. Like, I could spend a month on this and not even be confident that I have the math correct. It says that, well, the only way to really understand it and to know for sure is you have to make a simulation. Because even the Markov decision process, those don't model the actual latency that could be involved. And hypothetically, like, we need the network to perform under degraded internet. Like, that's what Satoshi originally designed Bitcoin to do, was to perform even if the global internet had degradation, even to the point that you lost global internet for a period of time, that you could still heal the chain even if you partition the network. And so I realized that there was no mathematical solution to that, and the only way to really figure it out was to model it, or was to simulate it. So
all right, awesome discussion, guys. We're well over 3 hours already. We still haven't done the news or brought up viewers on stage, so I'm gonna try to quickly move things along. Ofren, thank you so much, man, for jumping up today. You're always welcome here. I'm glad you were finally able to jump up. Appreciate everything you do for Monero, and yeah, thanks for being so open with everyone, man.
Yeah, no problem.